Hello, everybody, and welcome to the prophecy session. We are going to be talking about reinventing data prep in the age of AI. We are so excited. AI agents are there, they're changing so many industries. And I think a lot of what our users ask is what is going to be the change with AI data prep and analysis. So we're going to talk about that. And Maciej, my co-founder, is going to show you an excellent demo. So I'm Raj Bains. I'm the co-founder of Prophecy, and with me is Maciej. He's the co-founder and CTO. With that, let's get started. So first, the AI is changing the way knowledge work is done across the industry. Now, we are all aware of that. We have seen Cursor, we have seen Harvey, other products, but let's dive in a little bit deeper and try to understand what is the pattern. So the how we see it is that AI is generating initial work. This work gets you a long way there toward the final result, but it's not the full work, right? Once you start with the work, the final users need to refine it, take it from an incomplete to a complete version. So an example would be coding. You're talking to an agent, the agent generates a lot of the code, and now a lot of tech companies are saying they're going, earlier they used to be about 30%, now they're going to about 50% of code being generated by AI. But it's of course not 100%. So then you have a coder who understands the output of AI. They can look at it, they can modify it and take it to 100%. Same with legal, right? You use Harvey or something, the lawyer is going to get legal text back, they understand it, they can take it to 100%, right? So that is the pattern that's working. Now let's look at this pattern in the context of data. So here we introduce a new paradigm, which is generate, refine, and deploy. This is what we think works for data analysis. So in the beginning, you're talking to an agent which can, generate data pipelines from your prompts. It could also be a requirement document, right? It's just prompts in a document, and that is going to generate a visual pipeline for you. In Prophecy, visual pipeline can be the same as document or code. But then the visual pipeline is very easy for the data analyst to understand. So they can quickly understand what AI generated. And then also, if it's not 100% of where they want, they can easily make edits and take it to 100%. And then within Prophecy, everything is deployed as code on Git with robust software practices. So that is the deployment piece of this. So if you look at it, AI generates the code, generates the data pipeline or the document, and then from there on, you as a user can refine it, understand it very easily, refine it, and then of course it's deployed with the most robust practices. So if you look at the product design, this is what our stack looks like. So on the left, you have the data sources. On the right, you have the final business intelligence reports, etc., that you want to create. And in the middle is your studio where you're building data pipelines. As we mentioned in Prophecy, you can have visual pipelines, documents, or code. AI makes them the same thing. So you can have a data analyst who likes visual pipelines. You can have a business user who has a requirement document, and a data engineer who prefers to code, all modifying three versions of the same data pipeline. Of course, design is not all you need. So then you need to schedule these pipelines. So Prophecy provides Prophecy Automate that can schedule them, observe them, so you can ingest data, transform it. You'll have a series of transformations, and then finally write it out to Tableau or to a report. And then we can run at scale on the cloud data platforms such as Databricks natively. So multimodal, complete data lifecycle, and runs at scale with governance on the cloud data platforms. So now let's look at preparing data with AI, which will greatly enhance your productivity now. So the first part is our Discover agent that helps you find and ingest data. So you have connectors, but you also have an agent. So instead of browsing data, you can just ask an agent about the data sets, and Maciej will show a demo of this. And so you can look for data sets, you can compare data sets, and then you can dive into their details. So we'll cover all of this in the demo. And then the next step is that once you have them, you can discover the data. You can go inside a particular data set, see the data, the stats, and then you can just talk to the data set. Say, hey, I want a pie chart by country in this example, right? And generate that. So very, very easy to understand your data. Once you've understood your data, you want to do transformations, and transformations you can just ask for what your analysis that you're trying to do, and the transform agent will come in and create many pieces of your pipeline, right? In this case, they're highlighted by yellow, the new components being created. Now you can inspect the results that and modify them, taking them to 100%. Again, we'll show you a demo of this. And finally, there is deployment. And again, this you can schedule the pipelines, run them at a particular time, deploy them to production. And again, we'll show a demo of this. With this, I'm going to stop right here and pass it on to my co-founder Maciej, who's going to show the demo.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Raj, for this great introduction. Let's just now deep dive into the actual product and see how AI supports data analysis. We are going to be looking at a couple of different agents from explore, transform into our very first demo, where we're going to build a complete pipeline that tries to analyze which are the top cities with highest spending postcodes. And then we're going to look at another agent, which is doing business requirements transformation directly into a complete data product, multiple different pipelines developed for us. So let's get started. I already have here Prophecy open, and you can see I have this top cities pipeline created. On the left-hand side, I have a chat interface. So this is where I'm going to focus all my conversation with AI. And on the right-hand side, I have a visual canvas on which I'm going to be refining the work that AI is doing. We also have here a code interface. We're going to deep dive into that in a little bit. So let's get started. Well, I'm trying to build my top cities report. So we need a couple of different tables. I need a customers table. I need a table with all the scores for those customers, credit scores for those customers. And then we're going to connect it with the right addresses. Let's start looking for that first table. Normally, how would I do it? Well, I can start looking for that table within my complete catalog, but there's probably a lot of different customer tables right there. Instead, I can just talk directly to the agent and ask for it. In this case, I need a set of addresses within that customers table in particular. So let's let the agent search through my whole catalog, completely connected to my Databricks environment, and find the right table for me. The agent here is scanning through all of the tables that are available, looking at the data profiles behind those tables, and trying to understand which ones are the highest potential match for me. And perfect. So I got here back a couple of different tables that are available. Some that, when you look at the name, you might not even think that it's a customers table. So I mean, CSTS Gold, 2024, Silver table, they all look interesting. And then there is, of course, a full list of other potential candidates. But here AI already sorted by, the tables that are going to be highest probability matches for me, the tables that are most commonly used by all the other users. Let's look at the CSTS Gold table. And we can, of course, look at the actual data set, the data preview behind that table. Perfect. This is looking okay. I can see a profile of the data on the very top. Okay, this is good. It looks like it's a fairly standard customers table. The profile of the data doesn't suggest any repeats. That's okay. We can explore that data further, right? So I ran some queries already. It looks like in the past on it, I asked for customers created by month. Perfect. So I got a chart like this. Then I abstracted a little bit more to the year. It looks like it's a very uniform data set. We've been adding customers steadily since before 2004. Okay, that looks okay. But how does it compare to my CSTS 2024 table? Well, I can keep trying to look through every single one of those tables and understand them better, or I can just ask AI to do it for me. So come in and say, hey, well, compare the CSTS gold table and the other CSTS table for me. And now AI, instead of me having to do that comparison manually, looking through every single column, is going to look through these schemas, the data, and summarize that information for me. Perfect. So it looks like the CSTS Gold is the table for me. It includes more information. And I mean, the name suggests that it's gold, so I'll just go with that. Okay. What do we do next with this table? it's a pretty good table, but it does look like there is some information here that I would like to change. First of all, this addresses column right here contains this nasty JSON. I will actually need to extract some of this information out because I'll need the postcode. And apart from that, it looks like there's a bunch of PAI information here. Maybe the date of birth, the phone, the email addresses. For my end report, for the customers, I want all of this PAI information to be anonymized. Let's start talking to the agent and iterating further on this table. So one thing that I'm going to do is just go ahead and flatten this JSON. So let's just say parse, extract the fields from the JSON within the address column into individual columns. And I can even supply that one JSON as an example, just so that AI exactly knows what's it doing. And now AI is going to step by step try to develop that transformation for me, not just generate pure code, but build a visual pipeline. And we can inspect every single one of the steps, including also finding errors and fixing them automatically, right? So if AI detects that, oh, in this case, perfect, it detected that the initial query that it produced had some errors, it automatically goes in and tries to readjust and fix them. And we get this component on the other side. We can inspect exactly what it does. We, of course, see the data as well. Perfect. And now we can see how it flattened every single one of those columns. Awesome. So it saved us already some work. And we can just go ahead and keep on building our transformations further. Okay, so now that we have this JSON nicely flattened, let's go ahead and mask some of the PAI values. I'll just go in and say, hey, mask a few characters of PAI data columns. So just let AI detect which are the PAI columns that need to be masked and mask a few characters out of each one of those columns. And again, AI follows the same process, try to generate some code, automatically fix it, and build a visual representation of a pipeline for us so that we can quickly inspect its work. Awesome, that was pretty quick. The pipeline is running and trying to process the data. Great, we can already open up the component and see how does this transformation looks like. Well, we ended up here with a fairly complex transformation. Fair enough. Let's just inspect the data before and after. And awesome. So now we have our emails that are anonymized like this. And the phone numbers. Yeah, this is looking really good. So now the PAI columns are nicely masked. I can now send this report to my end customer. And we can keep building our pipeline like this. The next dataset that I would like to find is a credit scores dataset. Again, we're trying to identify highest credit score cities in our country. Perfect. We have a couple of different options here. I'll just go with the credit scores dataset. I know this is the right one. Now, so far, we let AI build most of the pipeline for us, but we can also, at any particular point in time, go in and finish any of the work done by AI with just drag and drop, right? And this is where that refined component, where refined steps comes in. Sometimes you might find yourself more productive just, clicking on the right columns, dragging and dropping components. Sometimes you want the AI to generate a large piece of pipeline for you. So you can use any one of those interfaces very easily and collaboratively. In this particular case, I'm just going to find the top credit scores. So I will do an aggregation by customer IDs and identify the top credit scores for each customer. Prophecy makes developing any one of those visual pipelines really easy. You don't even have to understand any coding. You have, of course, AI that can help you, but also a lot of visual components that make it really easy. Perfect. So just like this, I have this pipeline created, some with AI, some with visual. Let's just keep going and complete it. The next step that I would like to do is join both of those data sets. So pick the masked customer masked PAI data gem. And you can see that there is a lot of assist happening as I'm typing this. At any point, the AI is fully aware of the context of the pipeline. So it's very easy to just focus on a particular set of components. Perfect. And the AI is now trying to automatically join both of those data sets. It identified the common key between them and is developing the right code, visual logic. Awesome. And we have the right join created. What do we do next? Well, this is looking pretty good, but one of the challenges here is that I don't have the actual points that I want to visualize on my map associated with the postcodes. So we have our postcodes, but we don't know where those postcodes are located on the actual map. So let's find a dataset that can do this for us. Find a table that maps zip codes through points. And then we're going to do one final join and create the final transformation. And we're even going to add a nice visualization at the very end. Perfect. So we have our zip code to point data set. And so far we were using AI to perform very small granular steps. But of course, you don't have to use it like this. You can also ask it to complete a larger piece of the pipeline for you. So let's do exactly that. I'm going to this time say, join the customer data with credit scores and our zip code to point gem and find the top 10 zip codes with highest credit scores. Right, this time I'm asking for a little bit more of a goal-oriented prompt that the AI will be able to develop multiple different steps for us in the pipeline simultaneously. Perfect. So it looks like the SQL code was generated, visual pipeline created. This is looking really good, exactly what I wanted. I have clearly highlighted on the canvas by AI what the changes were made, right? So there is 4 components this time added, including joins, aggregations, order bys, and limits. And this is good because now at the very end, I have my zip codes with the top average credit scores. This is very helpful. The one thing that I do want to add really quickly by refining this visual pipeline is just add the final points that I'm going to visualize on the map and rerun this pipeline one more time. As I'm running the pipeline, everything is of course running directly on top of your data platform of choice, in this case, Databricks. And so we have this data shown right here. We can very quickly visualize it as well. And we can see that now, those top zip codes directly on the map. Looks like a lot of them are placed somewhere here in Florida. Makes sense. Perfect. So just like this, with this analysis, finding our top credit score zip codes in under 10 minutes. And this is a production-ready pipeline that's ready to be scheduled. Everything under the hood is high quality code. We can see it right here, right? Every single gem is turned into a part of a SQL expression. And we can start productionizing it. Directly in Prophecy, we can even go ahead and set a schedule and deploy it onto your Databricks environment of choice, with later on monitoring and observability capabilities running as well. But the key focus here was the agents. We've demonstrated so far two, discover, transform. We found the right data sets. We've built our pipelines. Let's look at one more example as well, which will allow us to see how can AI inside Prophecy with agents take a whole business requirement specification and create a pipeline. a set of pipelines from there on, and even keep updating them and synchronizing both of those systems back and forth, both of those modalities, right? Documentation, code, visual pipelines, back and forth. So here I have a new project created. This is going to be a completely new project from scratch. And I have these requirements that were given to me by potentially my business manager director. In this particular case, we're trying to compute this treasury stock availability. This requirements doc is nothing else but just a text document with even some images embedded in. There is no code here. This is high-level business descriptions and high-level business language, right? We can see here that there are some maybe 3-4 logical steps: extraction of data, tagging of data, and then deriving final trade types and values. And there's a little bit of information like what kind of data sets this business stakeholder expects in terms of inputs, our securities lists, trade files, and of course outputs like the final stock availability information. So this is looking pretty good. This is something that, usually a business stakeholder gives off to a analyst to potentially implement the first version of, and then the analyst might give it to a data engineer to finally implement a production-ready pipeline. Well, this whole life cycle can be completely cut to a single person that can be enabled to build this production-ready pipeline with Prophecy and AI. So let's see how that would be done. In Prophecy, we land on this new project screen. And this time, instead of creating new pipelines from scratch and maybe telling AI step by step what to do, we'll just start from this requirement doc itself. So I'll go ahead and upload it. I'm just picking the right docx file. So this is my treasury stock availability docx. And what the first step that the AI is going to do is unify this doc into a template provided to us. This template in this case is fairly straightforward. There is a set of data sources, data targets, and transformations. So it's mostly pretty much the same business definitions and specification that we got from our doc file, but this time just a little bit better formatted. There is no screenshots of some PowerPoint presentations. It's all very clean, readable text. That's of course also stored on our Git. Well, what do we do next? Right now, typically we can start building the pipelines from here on, but we can also use AI to actually convert this whole specification directly into a set of pipelines. So I'm going to click this button right here. Do you want to convert your business requirements to a data project? Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And we can see that now AI is trying to, first of all, identify which data sources are actually mentioned in the spec, right? Because the spec itself didn't mention specific table names and locations within the right environments. So we have to first do that ourselves. And AI suggested a couple of sources, right? So here's our one trade file, second trade file, the portfolio to GL, general ledger information, right? This is looking mostly okay, but there is one error. And it looks like right here, this currency information table is pretty good, but it does not include the actual conversion rates, right? And one of the steps here is the conversion rate of non-AUD to AUD values. So let's just go ahead and fix that step by talking to the AI, right? Instead of the currency information table, I'd like to use currency conversion rate table. Let's see if the AI can identify the right table to fix this problem for us. And it looks like perfect. It identified the right exchange rate table. And now we have all of the different currency, British pound, for instance, mapped into Australian dollars. Awesome. I can approve those data sets and let the AI now build the rest of the project for me, including all of the pipelines. I can see that it detected 3 different stages: bronze, silver, gold. Perfect. This is already using the right Databricks terminology. So it's going to be easy to productionize. And it developed those tables, pipelines step by step. We can see all those steps right here. This is looking okay. Let me just approve it, and we can actually look at the actual pipelines, right? So we have one bronze pipeline right here. It's taking a lot of sources, joining them together into a single common data model data set. There is some additional tagging that's performed for my silver table. And then the final aggregate with some filters creates our stock availability table. This is looking pretty good. But what if I want to start updating the set of models, right? The common challenge that happens in the industry is the business stakeholders give you one dog, the engineer implements something slightly different, and now you have two different sources of truth that are out of date from each other. Well, sounds like a perfect opportunity for our AI to come in and reconcile those differences. Let's just say that as an example, I would like to introduce one more column right here. So I'll create a settlement status column. And of course, AI can be generated for us. There we go. Perfect. So it created the right expression. That sounds good. Now I can start testing running this pipeline. But what happens to the document on the other side, right? The document with the requirements now doesn't include the actual settlement status column. Well, AI is now suggesting us right here in the bottom right corner that there's some updates that can be made to our requirement doc. Let's click on that and let's see what the AI suggests. And perfect. Now in a kind of a Google Doc style, we can see that AI suggested us two changes for adding of the settlement status column, one right here and one right here. We can accept the ones that we like, reject the ones that we don't like, and of course keep fixing the document manually if we'd like to do that as well. So now AI not only has completely taken a business spec and generated a lot of pipelines on the other side, but it also kept syncing all of those different modalities of a visual definition of pipelines, business specification, and also code on the other side for the production purposes. So just like this, we've used a bunch of agents that allowed us to automate some of the monotonous tasks that we as data engineers, data analysts very often have to go through. Raj, back to you.
Thanks, Maciej. That was an excellent demo. I think it's a game changer, right? Instead of us building the visual pipeline step by step, the agent is building the visual pipelines, right? And us, we are just verifying the work, right? Validating if it's doing the right things, giving it some direction. This is going to completely change data preparation and analysis. With that, right, let's look at some of the forward-looking stuff. You already saw how the requirement agent can automatically generate pipelines, right? So the future is going to have a lot more agents that can do much larger tasks. A lot of these agents are like, it's a quick preview. This is going to tell you what is being developed with our design partners. So there's some exciting stuff. Let's look at it through an example, right? So let's say you were an accounting firm, there's Big Four, there's another set of accounting firms where if you're a customer, enterprise customer, you share their financial books with them and you want an audit done, right? So in this, of course, you want your audit done quickly at the cheapest cost. So let's take an example of how the data is prepared and analyzed before an auditor takes a look at this. So, right. So on the left, you see that this overall example you see takes 6 days, and on the left you see onboard to a harmonized format. So what happens is everybody is exporting data out of their financial systems. It's going to look different for everybody. So you have the customer books, and now I'm going to create some custom pipelines that clean it up, put it in the right format to whatever is my firm's standard books, right? Because I need to run standard analysis on it. And that, can take a few days. The data is messy, not clean, and all that stuff. Then perhaps, in some cases, I will run some pre-built templated analyses, or sometimes the customer might ask me for something that is unique for a different analysis that needs to be done. So there's this custom work, but let's take the simple templated work for now. And these workflows often run on desktop, so they can take 10 minutes, someone might take up to hours, and some might even take a day or more. And then once I've done all the analysis, let's say for this use case, let's just call it 2 days average, then I've got to document the process, right? And this documentation's got to have the full process, some lineage, some visual pipelines, and some understanding of, and some tables of how the conversions were done. It also will have some subjective questions about, was this a high risk or a low risk thing, and stuff like that, right? So some subjective answers there as well. So I look at this whole analysis and say, hey, what will it look 6 months from now with AI, right? So let's look through this. So the first thing I want to talk about is the harmonization agent. So if you already have a customer pipeline where you've written it for one customer, and say you have 1,000 customers, you don't have to write it for the other 999, right? AI can look at the one handwritten example that's writing a pipeline into this harmonized model, and then it can write all the other pipelines that are corresponding to it. You know, instead of 2 days, it might take 5 minutes to write it and a little bit of time to clean it up, but this is going to get automated for the most part. Then there is the transform agent. This is what Maciej already showed, right? You generate it using text, and then you can inspect and refine using the visual canvas. In this case, we didn't put that big of a saving because we are saying you're using standard templates. Um, and then the third part is the documentation agent. Of course, Maciej showed you from requirements to pipeline, but from pipeline, you can generate the document. And this also can be done in 5 minutes. And then, give, and in this case, you can give a specific template, right? You can say, hey, this is the template I want to use. And then the AI can generate a document in that templated format for regulatory purposes. And then, yeah, you generate it, it takes 5 minutes, and then you maybe review it. So let's put half a day on it, right? So now if I step back and look at it at this overall process and say, what did I save, right? So your 6 day analysis can probably be reduced to 3 days, right? Your onboarding went from 3 days to half a day. Your transformation, in this case, we were very conservative and we said, AI only helps a little bit. So it went to 1.5 days. Please do note that this is not running on your desktop anymore. If the data sizes are large, this is running on Databricks. So no pipeline is going to take more than 10 minutes to run. And then the document is pretty much exported, right? So overall, one, there's a lot of value to the customer, which is faster audits. And that changes the competitiveness of the accounting firms, right? So you can deliver faster audits, but also you can do it for much fewer resources. So instead of 6 days, maybe you took 3 days, but if you're doing the audits once a quarter, that's 4 times a year, and maybe you have 1,000 customers, you're going to save 12,000 days. And that's about ballpark 50 person years. So maybe you were using 100 person years without prophecy, and with prophecy, you're using 50 person years. So that's almost cutting your cost down into half. So the main point is that this is just an example, right? The same example is going to play out in finance, in pharma, in all the different sectors. And a lot of the data prep and analysis is going to fundamentally change with AI. With that, moving on to the summary, right? What did we talk about? We talked about how AI is redefining data prep and analysis, especially based on agents, right? And then the other part is we saw through an example how the business impact can be very large. So if your competitor is turning around an audit in a week and you're taking a month, you're not competitive anymore. So if one person adopts it, everybody has to adopt it, right? So what we recommend is don't get left behind. Start with a pilot project and get experience with that project, and also figure out change management. We work with a lot of large enterprises where change management is extremely important. And so we have a full playbook of that. And so in summary, you're going to have this new multimodal world where business users, data analysts, and data engineers can all work together on the format of their choice, and where AI will do half the work. So really exciting changes to come. We look forward to talking to you. Thank you so much for joining.